Hey everybody, huge day for Risk of Rain. We got a brand new patch, as well as a roadmap for updates going forward. Seekers is finally getting fixed. I'm so excited. This is by far the most important thing happening this week. Geopolitical conflicts can go stuck on a Lego. Kamala, Trump, screw that. We got John Rain back in the building. That's right. Community Manager John, fact god.
50 facts about Risk of Rain returns.
He's back. And he's working with Gearbox. It's very, very exciting. I'm just going to start playing the dev thoughts because we have a lot to get through today.
Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan, and I'm thrilled to announce that I'm back in the Risk of Rain team as our community manager.
God.
I'd love to take some more time with the
We love John.
But we have some huge news to get to, so let's jump right in.
It's very exciting.
Today we've released an update that addresses more of the bugs you've reported to us. That includes tackling some of the larger reported issues like the overabundance of elites. Full notes on
yes, okay.
version. We plan to release these changes in 3 phases. Phase 1
beautiful
items and elites. Phase 2
items and elites.
The Fourth Sun boss fight. And
bosses and then survivors.
Some content.
I don't know if we could have asked for better, to be honest.
Survivor skins and Sales Star are all parts our team are particularly proud of. So beyond bug fixes,
Sales Star
these will remain largely unchanged.
Classic. Gotta name drop that.
Where we're focusing. Let's take a second look at each phase.
Beautiful. Okay.
So let's start with phase 1.
I don't think we could have asked for better. I really don't.
Sales Star, all the new items are being changed. In some cases, like with Sonorous Whispers,
everything except Sales Star.
Or a rebalance.
Interesting.
For others, the old uses were somewhat limited. So they've been completely redesigned.
Ooh, look at this. Okay. Chance to reflect incoming damage, awful. I made a couple of videos a few days ago talking about all of these items. This is one of the, I think, the worst offenders of just like mind-boggling bad design for an item. They gave it the old bison steak treatment. It looks like they completely changed the name. Elusive Antlers increases movement speed, spawns orbs of energy that gives increasing movement speed and boosts temporary barrier. Kind of reminds me of the old coffee bag from Starstorm. I think they updated that recently, so it works a little bit differently now. But it used to work like you would attack enemies and they drop orbs, and then that would increase your movement speed. It's beautiful. This is going to be a really great change just to the balance of the loot pool. Mobility I have found is kind of hard to find in Seekers, so this is kind of like a different version of Mocha, I guess. You know, it's going to give you the speed effect. Very great way to balance the loot pool. This is a good change. I'm excited to see this.
Our goal is to redesign the items to feel more transformational, make the new items fit into the existing build synergies.
Oh yeah, okay, look at this. So we got Sales Star as one of the ones that is not changed, and then we got some light changes on Chronic Expansion, Chance Doll, the Beads, Sonorous Whispers. Interesting, they're going to change that again. Growth Nectar, the Boomerang, and then the Seed of Life. I feel like that makes sense. And then significant changes: Warped Echo, Luminous Shot, Runic Lens, and then Longstanding Solitude. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that makes sense as well. I feel like the tiers are honestly perfect. A really good order of operations as far as the items that need changes the most. Because I feel like, yeah, you know, the ones up here are for the most part fine. Like I like Chance Doll. Chronic Expansion, maybe I would put a little bit lower down here because I feel like it's not the most satisfying to me. Overall though, super great change.
Particularly weak items more powerful, and re-establish a better balance in the item
pool. That's so interesting.
Defensive, movement, and
this is great.
Items. With the elites, the plan changes.
I remember a few months ago, Race and I sent Gearbox these big documents on like why some of the things in the DLC were unfun, like very specifically. I kind of focused more on survivors in my document, but he like really went in deep with the items. And if you know Race, like he does not do anything half-assed. He wrote like this 10-page manifesto. It was very beautifully done, but a lot of the things he was talking about were kind of these sentiments here with the empowering synergies and make them more transformational to the game. Because as they are right now, they feel like they're just kind of in their own bubble. They don't really interact very much. For the most part, I think like Sales Star obviously is not a great example of that, but like Chronic Expansion, Knockback Fin especially, they just kind of, they do their own thing, which is not the most satisfying. So it's good to see that they're planning on changing those, and especially that they're planning on changing them first, because I feel like that is probably the worst part of the DLC. I mean, I just made these 2 videos going over all of the new items, and yeah, I was not a fan if you saw those. But let's keep going.
Ball between defensive, movement, and damage items. With the elites, the plan changes are every bit as significant. We found that twisted elites could offer a lot more room for counterplay. Depending on the items you randomly receive in a run, it's possible that you're guaranteed to die if a twisted elite spawn. Risk of rating can be punishing, but when it is punishing, it should always be in ways that feel fair and provide space for players to overcome those challenges. The core principle.
Look at this. Oh, wow. That looks really cool. Go frame by frame here. Look at that. So we got like a little spike in the middle, and then they're like sucking the enemies. Design-wise, like the artists on Seekers, they really know what they're doing. I have to say.
To focus fire on a single monster is still really compelling.
I don't know about that. I feel like the concept of having to focus fire on a single enemy, I feel like they appear in loop when you have all of these proc items. So like haggers, ukuleles, meat hooks, you know, like it's kind of hard to just focus on one enemy when you have all of these procs going off. You got like ATGs that auto target stuff. Like you don't have control over that. So I hope this is implemented well.
Elites to give players a chance to dodge that incoming damage. Gilded elites are quite healthy. When a gilded wisp decides to float over you, it tends to just hang there, stealing your gold while you go on a marathon to take it out. The changes we're working on will retain the gold stealing mechanic of gilded elites, in ways that are more interesting and provide the space for counterplay.
Revised health multiplier, yes.
Is also being knocked down a few
times. That's huge.
With phase 2, we'll be tackling the full.
They did also say earlier, I think, that they're changing the elite bug. There's a bug since launch where elites spawn like twice as frequently after stage 2, which is honestly, I think, the worst bug in the entire expansion. I'm glad that's finally being changed, because as it is now, I feel like I would have to play with mods, because that just, it completely ruins the flow of the game when every enemy is like 5 times healthier. It's yuck. So a very good change there.
Some boss fight. As we get closer to these later phases, we'll have more details on our specific plans.
Yeah, I imagine they don't have a lot done for this. Look at these orbs.
For now, we just want to ensure you have an overview of our thinking.
It's probably like elusive antlers or something.
We're aiming to make the boss abilities clearer and fairer, prevent the false sun from attacking through obstacles, move the location of pillars for better blocking and coverage, rein in some of the ancillary damage sources like the number of golems and lightning strikes, and rebalance the overall encounter, including damage and swapping flat armor for adaptive armor.
That's
During
good.
this roadmap phase, we're also planning some changes to Scorchworm and Halcyonite.
Okay.
We'll have more details for that when we get closer.
Yeah, I feel like both of those enemies do need changes, but I haven't played a lot of the False Sun fight, but these do look like good changes. I think a lot of the problems people had was not really being able to read his attacks. Some of his attacks just like insta-killing you, and it not really feeling fair. I think False Sun, like design-wise, is really cool, and I think there's a lot of potential here. I think it was just maybe a little bit rushed. Where like Voidling, I feel like you would need a complete rework to change that boss. False Sun seems like the core element is there, so I feel like they can do a really good job, and I'm looking forward to it. I hope they consider changing it from a stage 4 boss, because that just feels awful. I never have what I need by stage 4, so I just don't end up fighting him. So hopefully they had like a way you can fight him on like stage 5 or stage 6. Yeah, but overall, I'm glad they are changing that.
In phase 3, we'll work on survivors. All 3 survivors will see large improvements, but Chef is getting a lot of attention. Chef could be a lot more powerful and feel a lot more streamlined.
They definitely know the issues. They know the issues we have.
Overall. All of Chef's abilities are being revisited, but the 2 that stick out the most are Chef's primary and secondary, Dice and Seer.
Yep.
Dice, we want to allow players to throw cleavers with reckless abandon like Chefs of yore. With Seer, we're making sure the ability is more agile so that you can quickly use it and move on with your culinary adventures.
Making more like returns,
should feel like
hopefully.
An unhinged construct creation. After all, that's just who he is. But there's still a lot of room for polish. On top of cleaning up the overall kit, we want to make a handful of design improvements. All of his abilities are changing, but a lot of focus will be making Lunar Spikes and Laser of the Father feel more impactful.
Yeah.
We'll have a lot more details when we
That's
get closer.
fair. I don't know if Laser of the Father needs to feel more impactful, though. I like False Sun. I think False Sun's a really cool survivor. My big issue with False Sun is just the polish. Like, it feels like a modded survivor more than anybody else in the game. Like, quality-wise, I feel like they could definitely step it up a bit. But conceptually, though, I think he's a really cool survivor, and he is fun.
More impactful. We'll have a lot more details when we get closer. Among the three, Seeker seems to be a clear favourite.
Yep.
While she's receiving some changes, they're more targeted than the other survivors. Overall, we want to increase the value of her tranquility stats, so each one should be more impactful. We're also keen on bringing the resurrection capabilities she delivers in multiplayer back to single player.
Okay, yes.
We'll let the team keep making improvements as we go through these phases, and we'll give you more details later.
The tranquility stack, that's like, I feel like the only change Seeker needs. The huge change there. The 1% buff to stats, like, come on. Very nice.
And that's what we have for you today. This is a huge undertaking, but one the team is very excited about. We also want to thank everyone for giving us the time to put together a holistic plan. We know that you're eager to see what's in store, and we can't wait for you to jump in. In the meantime, today's bug fix is alive, and you can find the update notes in the written dev diary version. Until
beautiful.
Next time, Risk of Rain team.
Fact God John. What a beautiful man. Okay. So I'm now going to quickly go over the roadmap here and then the patch notes. I feel like it's going to be mostly the same stuff. Yeah, it seems like the video is just kind of reading through these. Twisted Elites. You got anything more specific here? The core principle of encouraging players to focus fire a single monster is still really compelling, so we're rebuilding Twisted Elites to give players a chance to dodge that incoming damage. That was, like, I think the most questionable thing I saw in these patch notes. If they still plan on making Twisteds a tier 2, which I guess in this GIF, it looks like maybe they're not, but who knows, because sometimes these are inaccurate and they spawn stuff in. I would like to see them not be tier 2, but this does look interesting and definitely a lot more fair. I assume that orb is going to do some damage when it hits you. And then Gilded Elites, very glad they nerfed the health on it. They were tier 1 elites with the health of tier 2s. Not quite, but like they were definitely very tanky, especially on Halcyon, which was already a really tanky enemy, and then you just multiply its health. Like if you ever do a tier 3 Halcyon shrine, it just takes forever to kill him unless you like cheese him off a cliff or something. The False Sun boss fight, it seems like, is still very developmental. It seems like they haven't really implemented much, but they have some ideas for it, which is really cool. Chef could be a lot more powerful and also a lot more streamlined, so we're rebuilding his kit to be more elegant. We also want to buff him overall, which I think is very necessary. Chef, weakest survivor in the game by far, just deals no damage, and he's a little divisive. I've met some people that do like him, but my main problems were actually his primary and secondary. I feel like the cleavers just weren't very satisfying to throw out. They're kind of janky. And then Seer, I think, is just, I don't like that ability. I'm hoping they completely rework it. It looks like it comes out a little bit faster here, which is good. The problem with an ability like Seer, or Flamethrower for that matter, it's very hard to use them in the late game. You could take other melee abilities. You have like Bite, you have Focused Assault, Charge Gauntlet. The thing with all of those attacks is you can get in, deal your damage, and get out. With Chef, you have to like sit in an Elder Lemurian's face on stage 4 for 5 minutes, and then there's like a weird delay after you use it, and then you can't dash away, and it does very little damage, and you can't hit flying enemies. Not really a fan, to be honest. I kind of liked how it was in Returns. I would like to see maybe an alternate ability that's more similar to that, because in that game it was just like a medium-ranged blast. Maybe if you could like aim that up or something. I don't know what they're going to do in terms of new content. Maybe they will. I feel like they probably aren't going to consider that until this 3-phase plan or whatever. Maybe that's hoping for too much. I don't want to like ask for too much here, but I feel like definitely we could use a couple more ult abilities. The new survivors only having one apiece feels a little bit off, especially when all the other survivors have at least 2, except Voidling, but he's kind of a unique case. And then False Sun, basically saying the same thing they said in the video. Yeah, just some general polish. And then Tranquility stacks on the Seeker. Huge. My big problem with Seeker is she's a pretty good survivor. I would say like A or B tier, but her kit itself is maybe a little bit unbalanced, where I feel like her like secondary and primary are like kind of B tier, and then meditate is just like, I don't know, maybe unnecessary sometimes. Like you have to play like a DDR rhythm game to do 12 damage to a beetle, and it just feels like kind of stupid. That's something I hope they look at buffing, but the tranquility stacks definitely will make that ability a lot more worth it to use, and hopefully less of a chore. Sojourn is really what carries Seeker, or Repulsion Armor, reducing the damage you take. Like if you have 4 or 5, you're just good. You're invincible for the rest of the game. It's crazy. So that's like easily an S tier ability, one of the best abilities in the game. So Seeker overall I think is good, but just kind of a lopsided kit. And I think alternate abilities could help with that as well. But yeah, I don't think Seeker needs a ton of changes either. These are all the details we have for you today. This is a huge undertaking, but one that the team is excited about. We also want to thank everyone for giving us time to put together a holistic plan. We know that you're eager to see what's inside, and we can't wait for you to jump in. In the meantime, today's bug fixes are live for PC. It will be rolling out to consoles in the coming weeks as they become available. You can find the update notes here, so let's take a look at those. Looks like Risk of Rain 2 is on sale today for $8. So that's a pretty good deal if you guys want to grab it. I don't know why you'd be here if you haven't played the game, but, you want to gift it to a friend or something. There it is. All right, so it looks like we got some bug fixes. Resolved a player-reported issue that resulted in spawn rates of elites being too high after Stage 2. Thank God. Thank you for fixing that, Gearbox. I'm very grateful. I don't have to use elite cost fix anymore. The multi-sentry skin has been tweaked to eliminate a small spike seen and reported by some players. Okay. Resolved an issue where Voidling would not reappear on starting the second phase of the fight. I'm just learning about these bugs for the first time. Like, I haven't heard of either of those. False Sun would have trouble using his charge attack if your attack speed became extremely high. This has been resolved to resume printing syringes at your leisure. Nice. Players reported that on a certain version of Aphelion Sanctuary, a mysterious floating tree would spawn. The tree has been returned to the ground where it belongs. What? How does that happen? What? Okay. I mean, there's some stuff like that on the moon as well. Like they removed that pillar and the jump pad, and it just seems like for seemingly no reason. Okay. Sure. Players reported that the lightning on Prime Meridian would only ever target host in multiplayer sessions. The lightning will now attack everyone equally. Gotta have that equality. Very nice. Platforms for the False Suns Arena on Prime Meridian would sometimes not charge for clients when moving between phases. They will now appear/disappear just as they would for the host. Resolved a reported issue that led to players sometimes not properly spawning in when entering crossplay sessions. Oh, Lord. That looks awful. Okay. As a connected client, players reported that sometimes the False Sun's large boss health bar would not reappear after changing phases. It will now show back up for all players. Result an issue with the Prismatic Trial leaderboard not displaying any times. That's good. Cap is probably happy about that. He's a big prismatic guy. Players have reported a mysterious Z-construct creature appearing on the new Aphelion Bulwark Ambry variant. That monster has been completely removed from the monster pool. What? I had not heard about this. I don't even think I've been to this stage in the expansion. Like, I really have no reason to go to the Ambry. That's interesting. I think that's like, was that cut content from Survivors or something? I don't know. That's weird. Resolved an issue that could sometimes trap players outside of the False Sun's boss room upon being resurrected by Seeker. A lot of False Sun boss issues I'm noticing. I haven't really fought that boss a lot, so I don't think I've really ran into these, but it seems like there's a lot, especially in multiplayer. So it's good those are being resolved. When playing as multi and using the sentry skins, sometimes players would not receive visual effect when frozen. You are once again able to turn multi into an ice cube. Okay. I wonder if he can still shoot. I hope he can. There's a bug in the game that's been in there forever, that if you're in power mode, you can still shoot even when you're frozen. It's pretty cool. Resolved an issue, players reported, where applying bleed stacks with Noxious Thorn could make monsters turn on each other and ignore the player. Wow, and actually used for Noxious Thorn. I didn't know it did that, but it doesn't anymore. Whoa, God, that item. Addressed another reported issue with Noxious Thorn, where it would not correctly apply the +1 stack of another debuff. That's true, it wouldn't. It had sometimes only been applying its bleed stack. I mean, I think that was bugged as well, though. I wonder if they fixed the whole bleed thing in general, because it's supposed to apply 2 bleed stacks, I believe, and it only applies 1. It's also supposed to apply more when you stack it, but stacking it doesn't apply anymore. So hopefully that's been fixed, but they didn't mention that specifically. Resolved an issue where using Sojourn, Eccentric Face, or Volcanic Egg could lock you out of viewing the False Sun fight or teleporting you onto the platform. That's an issue. Players reported that the Wandering Vagrant's homing orbs could sometimes turn invincible. That issue has now been addressed. Oh, thank goodness. That was a very annoying one. I hated that so much. Huge. I'm very impressed. Big Gearbox W. I guess I have to remake my item tier list videos now that all of these are confirmed changing, but that's okay. I'm happy to see it, and it really seems like they've listened to the feedback and the things the community wants the most. Like, I don't know, I feel like they're approaching it in the best possible way. I don't know, like, how I would have really done this differently. So that's great to see. I was kind of worried that Take-Two or 2K would come down on Gearbox and just say, you know what, it didn't work. We're stopping development. But it seems like they've given them some resources. I mean, hiring John back, that was such a great decision. I imagine they wanted him because he's good at his job. Obviously, Hopu is no more. Rest in peace, Hopu Games. But I think having that continuity from Hopu and having John there, very good decision. I think hiring John in the first place was one of the best decisions Hopu made, just in terms of communication. We desperately needed a community manager, and I think there was kind of one like a year ago. I remember I talked to some people from Gearbox around the release of Risk of Rain Returns that were very involved in the community. I had like a contact, but then that whole team got fired. And since then, communication has been a little bit harder between, I think, the community and Gearbox. But having John here, I think, is great. And I'm really happy he's back. I'm going to be playing the new patch at some point in the near future, so subscribe to look out for that. I'll also be covering any updates or news that come out on the game. I'm very excited that I don't have to make a doomer video, especially after like August, September. I feel like every video I was making was kind of like that. So it's good to have some positive news to report for once.